breeze through it real quickly. I went to Ghana with some friends, and the fascinating thing was I thought I was learning about the slave trade history. Elmina Castle is here, but when I went in it, they showed us this courtyard. And the story in this courtyard was this is right next to where they held the women, and regularly the women were brought out so that the governor could pick his concubine for the night. And that just wrecked me. Because you can talk about slavery and just have this couple 100-year grasp of it and never really deal with the human side of it. But then when you think of the gender violence going on, it really personalized. It just wrecked me. So I wanted to get a little deeper because I teach a class on a people's history of justice in the modern era, and I wanted to understand it kind of a little bit more from a scholarly level. And I said, are there things that I can learn about this, that it really happened and how it happened? And they brought a guy out who went and got his PhD back in England on it. He's from Cape Coast, and he came in and we started talking. I said, what's the evidence? And he says, there's a Portuguese castle first. And he says, the number of mulattoes in the area, which is a Portuguese word. And he said, so you can study the area and see how prevalent this was. I'm like, wow, what else? And he goes on and he goes on, and I said, is there anything in writing? And he says, well, I did come across this a lot of times when I was in Portugal studying the writings. And he says, I would come along this song that oftentimes they would sing when they were trying to pick a woman that they were going to sleep with. And he began to sing it. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And I had an oh moment. Because I began to realize how easily and quickly we get tied up into systems of injustice without even realizing it. And I began to study this phrase. I went to San Francisco, and they have a museum of the African diaspora, and I started talking to the curator, and she jumped in and says, oh yeah, when I grew up in the South, I knew what it was, and it wasn't a tiger. Southwest Airlines was sued recently because a woman was using it, a flight attendant, was using it as a little jingle about shutting the door, but there was a couple there that understand the long history of this, and they really reacted to it. And I'm thinking, man, I just grew up with this little jingle, and yet here's the history. So let me kind of conclude this way. When we really understand the broad spectrum of justice, we realize we can't walk across the lawn without breaking a blade of grass.